Hello and greetings from me, Kim Dodsworth, Queensland storyteller. As you know, I read stories on Radio 4RPH Brisbane each week, and today I have a humdinger from regular contributor Jessie Bate of South Australia. She described her today's story to me, The Necklace, as a horrid tale, and indeed it is. Not the writing, let me hasten to add. That is always as superb, but it's the subject of the story, one Jack Bremen. He's horrid, there's no doubt about that. Let's all be horrified then and listen to The Necklace by Jessie Bate. Jack Bremen, who survived 3 years of incarceration. Iron Man Jack Bremen, a modern superstar who survived. Indomitable Jack, they're calling him at his local pub. Good old Jack. He'd never let anyone beat him, a mate said. It's amazing, isn't it? The way when a bloke survives a horrible experience, he's changed in the eyes of the people who know him. I've known Jack Bremen pretty well. He's successful, no doubt about that, intelligent, resourceful, tough, but he's never been lovable or even likeable. If he's now good old Jack to folks at his local, it's a real change from what they used to call him. I will not report the more colourful descriptions, but these days he's a hero. And Celia, his wife, she's changed too. I have complete faith, said Celia, in a TV interview when Jack went missing. I know my husband will come back. And she smiled a sort of celestial smile at the camera. The press had turned her into a sort of St. Joan, or maybe Mother Teresa, the angel of goodness whose love and courage and faith ensured Jack's safe return. Jack Bremen is a big mouth, a bully, and a cold-hearted bastard whose only real concern is Jack Bremen, and making more money for Jack Bremen. Making money is one of the things he's brilliant at. That and putting other people down, making them feel small. And Celia, with her noble smile and shining faith, she's never been my cup of tea either. She's a snob with a nasty streak. She has a talent for smiling sweetly and sticking the knife in when you aren't looking. She's got this unshakable belief that she's the perfect woman, a shining example to all womankind, and that we should all look up to her. On a trip to some outlandish part of Asia to seal another lucrative business deal, Jack got himself kidnapped by a group calling themselves the Shrivers. No one seemed to know why. No ransom was ever asked. Occasionally, garbled messages of a weirdly religious tone were received, but apart from that, silence. Then one day Jack, emaciated and in rags, walked into a police station in Brunei. His life in the hands of the Shrivers is well known from TV interviews and press articles, of how he spent a large part of the 3 years chained to a wall in a cellar, of how he made friends with the guards, and eventually persuaded them that he was of no real political use to them. He recovered pretty quickly, did good old Jack. The saintly Celia had become adept at the moving TV interview, stressing her faith, her love, her determination to stand by her man. Which brings us to the necklace. It's an interesting article, I admit. Not top-class jewellery, but distinctive. Celia's eyes during the interview were quite damp as she fingered it. Oh, I know it has no monetary value, but it means so much to me that my Jack, in that awful place, could think of me, work so hard to make this necklace as a gift for me. I find it quite inspirational. Well, it's an attractive thing, composed of very white fragments of various shapes, carved and smoothed out, looking rather like white coral or maybe ivory. Now, Jack and I, though not alike at all, have one thing in common: no love for Celia. Why ever he stayed with her always surprised me. Jack usually didn't let anything or anyone stand in the way of what Jack wanted. So the fact that he'd spend so much time in his captivity working on a gift for her intrigued me. Jack was a strong, healthy bloke. He was soon back to his normal, flint-hard self. I met him one day at the golf club and decided to ask a few questions. Bad? Yeah, it was bad. Some days the pits, others just uncomfortable, dirty, monotonous. I learned a lot about rats. Rats? Human rats? Well, them too. But these were just your normal ratty beasts. Have you any idea how many kinds of rats there are? Yes, I learned a lot about rats. Especially how to kill them. Used them as target practice. Got pretty good too. Living like that, chained up for most of the time, you get to look for consolations. Seeing how many rats I could kill was mine, and counting the miles that lay between me and that bitch Celia. But you've come back to her. Why didn't you take the chance to break away, Jack? I asked daringly. Matey, you got any idea what the publicity has done for my business prospects? Orders have poured in, because I'm a celebrity now. Jack the Indomitable, a sort of Superman. And part of it is this pretty picture the press have built up of Saint Celia waiting for a man, lovers reunited, and all that crap. Turns your stomach, doesn't it? But it's good for business. I'll give it a year, and by that time I'll have everything sorted out, got consolidated. Then St. Celia can pack her bags. But the necklace, it's ivory, isn't it? Must have taken a year all but a day or two. And every day I worked on it, I could picture it round her fat little neck, see her face above it smirking. My head whirled. You've lost me, Jack. Rats, matey. Concentrate on the rats. Celia's got a horror of the things. Worse even than most women have. I saw her interviewed one day, and she said something like, Jack must be such a brave man to have stood the rats. I know I'd have died. You know, she made it sound like it was a virtue in her that she could love a bloke coarse enough to stick having rats around him. That's the way she is, of course. She can always twist things to make Celia look good. He smiled, a wolfish sort of grimace. Rats, matey. I killed them every day when they let me out in the yard for exercise. Got pretty pally with the guards, and they'd cheer me on whenever I killed one. They'd let the corpses lie and rot. Not that they rotted for long. Other rats ate them, or birds, or the odd wild dog that got in, and the bones left behind got bleached by the sun, quite white and clean. One of the guards told me the local people used to take the bones and carve them into bits and pieces to sell to the tourists. That's what gave me the idea. I had nothing much to work with, only a rusty old file. I gradually wore down my spoon handle till it got pretty sharp. Then I started to carve and chip away at those bones. So poor old Celia, she's wearing dead rats around her neck. Gives me a kick to think of that, and her so bloody scared of the things. I risked a question. Shall you ever tell her, Jack? He grinned. It wasn't a nice grin at all. Oh, yes, I'll tell her. On the day I kick her out. I can wait. I've learned a lot of patience, you know. It's good to have something to look forward to, and what I've got is the look that'll come on her face when she finds out. I told you this was a horrid tale, didn't I? I don't see Jack Brisbane these days if I can avoid it. I get this sick feeling, real nausea when I think of him. But it isn't the rats. Rats are just rats. I like them as little as anyone, I guess. But that necklace, well, it was just bone, wasn't it? We use bone in various ways. Sure, it comes from dead animals, but ivory comes from dead elephants. Generally, it comes from elephants that were killed just for the tusks, but we don't feel sick if we see ivory. No, what turns me off is the hatred. What sort of man can hate a woman so much that he'd spend a year working on a necklace that would bring her such disgust and loathing? What sort of man can keep himself going, fill himself with pleasure at the thought of the look on her face when she finds out? Sometimes I think I ought to warn the poor creature, so as she'll stop wearing the damn thing. But Celia's unpredictable. I guess she'd turn on me. I'd get no thanks, that's for sure, and she'd certainly tell Jack, and I'd be in trouble. I ask you, would you risk being in the black books of a man who has brought hatred to such a fine art? And that was today's story, The Necklace by Jessie Bate. I hope you'll be tuning in again this time next week when I'll have another short story of quality for you. Until then, goodbye from me, Kim Dodsworth.